Lena struggled to pull the wounded man into the dark alley, away from the screaming crowd and the falling fire in the sky. His weight was heavy, but his grip on her wrist was strong, as if his strength came from something far beyond human. She pressed him against the wall, her heart racing. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice shaking. His breathing was uneven, but his eyes burned with a strange fire that made her skin prickle. "You already know," he said, coughing. Blood, dark and faintly glowing, slid down his mouth. "I am not of your world. I am the last emperor of the dragon blood." The words sounded like madness, but when he said them, they felt heavy, ancient, true. Lena shook her head, terrified. "You need a hospital," she said, but he grabbed her hand again and shook his head. "No doctors. No human medicine. It will not help me. You must listen." The ground shook again as another explosion roared in the distance. People screamed, cars crashed, lights flickered. The sky above them burned with streaks of alien fire. "What do you mean, Emperor?" Lena asked, her voice cracking. "Why me? Why are you here?" His lips curved in a faint, almost sad smile. "Because, Waitress of Earth, you carry my air." Lena froze. His words slammed into her chest like a hammer. She stumbled back, shaking her head. "No. That's impossible. I don't even know you." But he only looked at her with burning eyes that saw deeper than flesh. "It has already begun," he whispered. "When I touched your hand, when I sat in your world, when I breathed your air. The seed of dragon blood cannot be stopped. It chose you." Lena's hands trembled. Her stomach twisted as if something deep inside her shifted. A cold fear ran through her veins. "You're insane," she hissed, though her voice lacked strength. Yet in that moment she felt it, a spark inside her body, a heat she had never felt before, as if something alien pulsed beneath her skin. The man coughed again, clutching his side. "Listen carefully. My enemies have followed me here. They know of the child. They will kill me. They will kill you, and they will tear this world apart if they must. But the child must live." Lena staggered back. She pressed her hands over her stomach, feeling nothing, yet the words echoed in her head, "The child must live." "I'm just a waitress," she whispered. "I don't know anything about your war, your empire, your whatever this is." He forced himself to sit straighter against the wall. His presence, even wounded, radiated something powerful, something larger than life. "You are more than you think," he said. "Your world has been watched, judged, and ignored by the galaxy. But now you are part of something greater. My blood runs through you. My enemies will fear you. And they will hunt you." Another blast shook the night, and a building collapsed further down the street. Alien shapes, tall, armored, monstrous, moved through the fire, their weapons glowing with deadly light. Lena's chest tightened with panic. "We have to run," she said. The Emperor nodded weakly. She helped him to his feet, and though wounded, he seemed to move with a strange grace, his body heavier than stone but quicker than shadow. They stumbled through alleys, the sounds of war echoing around them. Lena's mind raced. She wanted to scream that this was impossible, that she was dreaming, but every sound, every tremor reminded her this was real. She was carrying something she never asked for, something that could destroy her world. When they reached the edge of town, the Emperor stopped, breathing hard. He turned to her. "My name is Kale," he said softly, as if offering her something sacred. "I was once the Dragon Emperor of 1,000 worlds. My empire fell to traitors. They slaughtered my people. They will not stop until my bloodline is erased forever." His burning gaze locked on her stomach. "That is why you must survive. Because within you grows the only hope of my people. A child of 2 worlds." Lena felt the ground tilt beneath her. She wanted to deny it, to scream that she didn't want this, but the heat in her veins, the strange pounding in her chest, the visions from her dream, it all connected. She shook her head desperately. I can't be part of this. I'm nobody." Kale placed a trembling hand on her shoulder. You are not nobody. You are chosen. And humanity will rise with you, or burn with you. His words chilled her more than the cold night air. Suddenly, a beam of burning light struck the ground near them, throwing dust and fire into the air. Alien soldiers advanced, their armor shining like obsidian, their weapons aimed at Kale and Lena. Kale pushed Lena behind him, his hand lifting. For a moment, his body blazed with fire, his eyes like molten suns. He unleashed a wave of energy that threw the alien soldiers backward. The ground cracked, and the air sizzled. Lena covered her face, terrified, but when she looked again, Kale stood shaking, barely able to stay upright. The glow around him faded, his strength draining. Go, he rasped. Run. They will never stop. Lena pulled him by the arm, dragging him toward the darkness. Her mind screamed that this was too big, too much, but her legs kept moving. She didn't know where they were going, only that the fire in the sky kept falling, the alien ships kept descending, and the words of the Emperor echoed in her head. She carried his child. She carried the heir of an empire she had never known. And the galaxy was coming for her. The night was alive with fire and thunder as Lena dragged Kale through the narrow streets, her breath coming in sharp gasps, her heart beating so loud it drowned out the screams around them. The sky was broken with burning ships, some crashing in flames, others hovering like predators above the town. Sirens wailed, windows shattered, and people scattered in blind panic, not knowing if this was war, an invasion, or the end of the world. Lena wanted to believe this was all a nightmare, that she would wake up back in the diner, wiping tables under the flickering neon lights, but every sound and every flash of fire told her this was real. Kale stumbled beside her, his face pale, his blood still glowing faintly as it dripped onto the ground. Yet even in his weakness, he moved with a strange determination, his burning eyes fixed ahead. They are close, he rasped, his voice almost lost in the chaos. We cannot stop. Not now. Lena bit her lip until it bled, forcing her legs to move faster. Behind them, shadows moved, tall armored figures with glowing weapons cutting through smoke. Alien soldiers. Their voices were guttural, metallic, in a language she didn't understand, but their intent was clear. They were hunting. Hunting her. Hunting Kale. Hunting what she carried. Lena's stomach twisted with fear, and for a fleeting moment, she pressed her hand against it. Could it be true? Could there really be something inside her, something not human? The thought almost made her collapse, but Kale squeezed her arm tightly, dragging her back to the present. Not fear, he whispered through clenched teeth. Strength. My blood will not let you break. But Lena didn't feel strong. She felt like a rabbit running from wolves. They turned down an alley, only to see more soldiers blocking the far end, their eyes glowing red through their helmets. One of them raised a weapon, and a beam of light shot toward them. Lena cried out, pulling Kale down just in time as the beam burned through the wall, leaving molten stone. Dust and smoke rained down. They scrambled to their feet, coughing. Kale lifted his hand weakly, and for a moment fire licked across his skin, but no great power came. He was too weak, his strength drained. Lena's chest tightened with panic. He couldn't fight. They would die here. But suddenly headlights cut through the smoke, and a battered truck screeched into the alley, slamming into two of the soldiers and sending them crashing into the walls. Get in! A voice shouted from the cab. Lena didn't think. She pulled Kale toward the truck and shoved him inside, then climbed in after him. The driver was an old man, his face wrinkled, his eyes fierce. Saw you running, he growled, flooring the accelerator. Figured you could use a hand before those monsters roast you alive. The truck roared out of the alley, tires screeching, sparks flying as beams of light blasted the pavement behind them. Lena clung to the seat, shaking, as Kale leaned back, his chest rising and falling heavily. They will not stop, he said again, his voice faint. They will chase until one of us is dead. Lena turned to him, her throat dry. Why me? Why are they after me? Kale's eyes burned with an ancient sorrow. Because you carry my blood now. Because my heir is inside you. That child is hope. And hope is something my enemies cannot allow. Lena shook her head, tears stinging her eyes. She wanted to scream that she didn't ask for this, that she was just a waitress, that she didn't want to carry anyone's heir or fight anyone's war. But deep inside, beneath the terror, something else stirred, a heat in her veins, a strange pulse in her chest that didn't feel like her own heartbeat. She pressed her hand against her stomach again and shivered. The old man drove like the devil was chasing him, swerving down side streets, dodging burning wreckage, barely keeping ahead of the alien soldiers that moved across the rooftops like shadows. "What the hell are they?" the man shouted over the chaos. Lena had no answer, but Cale opened his eyes slowly. "They are hunters. Assassins of the broken clans. They were bred for one purpose only, to destroy my bloodline." The old man glanced at him, his hands gripping the wheel tight. "And what the hell are you supposed to be?" Cale's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Once. I was Emperor. The Dragon Emperor of 1,000 stars." The man muttered a curse under his breath and shook his head. "Great. Just my luck. I pick up a waitress and a lunatic alien king." But his voice, despite the words, carried no mockery. He had seen the fire in Cale's eyes, the glow of his blood, and deep down he knew the truth. Lena stayed silent, staring out the window as the truck roared through the night. The world she had known, her small apartment, the quiet diner, the life of waiting tables and wishing for more, was gone. In its place was fire, fear, and a destiny she didn't understand. Ahead, the highway stretched into the dark, but the sky above still burned with alien fire. Lena knew they couldn't run forever. The chase had only begun, and the entire galaxy was now against them. The truck roared down the broken highway, its tires spitting gravel and sparks as Lena gripped the door handle tight, her knuckles white, her mind spinning with fear and confusion. The night sky was no longer dark but alive with fire, alien ships drifting above the clouds like predators, their shadows stretching across the earth. Cale sat weakly in the back seat, his head pressed against the window, his breath shallow, his glowing blood still seeping through his torn coat. The old man driving cursed under his breath as explosions echoed in the distance. Towns burned, sirens screamed, and people scattered across fields, running from shadows they didn't understand. Humanity had always looked up at the stars and dreamed of meeting others, but this was not a dream. This was war, and it had come crashing down on their small world without warning. Lena pressed her hand against her stomach again, feeling the strange pulse inside her, not knowing if it was her imagination or something alive, something not human. She wanted answers, but the fear was louder than her thoughts. Suddenly, a deafening roar filled the air, and fighter jets streaked overhead, their engines blazing, cutting through the smoke-filled sky. For the first time, Lena saw her own people rise to fight. The jets banked sharply, missiles flying upward toward the alien ships. Explosions burst like stars in the sky, and for a brief moment, hope flickered in her chest. The old man grinned grimly. "The army's awake. Let's see how these bastards like Earth's welcome." But his grin faded as the alien ships returned fire. Blazing beams of energy sliced through the clouds, striking the jets with surgical precision. One by one, the human fighters burst into flames, falling like meteors to the earth. Lena covered her mouth, tears filling her eyes. "They're outmatched," Cale whispered weakly, his voice rough but steady. "Your people are brave, but they are children compared to what comes from the stars." Lena turned to him, anger rising through her fear. "Then help them. Do something. You said you're an emperor. Prove it." His eyes flickered with fire, but his body was trembling, too weak to summon the power she had seen before. "Not yet," he said, his tone filled with both frustration and sorrow. "The bloodline burns inside you now. I gave too much already. I must survive long enough to protect what grows within you." Lena's hands shook, torn between fury and terror. She wanted to scream at him, to demand why he had dragged her into this nightmare, but there was no time. Another blast shook the earth, the truck skidding sideways as the driver fought for control. Ahead, the highway was blocked by military vehicles. Tanks, trucks, soldiers rushing into formation, their guns pointed skyward. The old man slammed the brakes, the truck screeching to a halt just short of the barricade. Soldiers swarmed, weapons raised. "Out of the truck!" one of them barked, his rifle aimed directly at Lena. She froze, her breath catching in her throat. The soldiers pulled open the doors, dragging them out onto the pavement. Cale stumbled, barely standing, his glowing blood catching the eyes of the soldiers instantly. "What the hell is he?" one of them shouted. "He's bleeding light." Another soldier pointed his weapon at Cale's head. "He's one of them. Kill him before he signals more down here." "No!" Lena shouted, stepping in front of him without thinking. The soldier's eyes flicked between her and Cale. "Ma'am, step aside. He's not human." Lena's chest rose and fell quickly, but her voice came out firm. "He saved me. He's not like them. He's trying to help." The soldiers looked doubtful, but before they could argue, the sky tore open with another explosion. Alien soldiers descended from hovering ships, their armor gleaming black, their weapons glowing with deadly light. They dropped into the highway like predators landing among prey. The soldiers of Earth opened fire immediately, bullets rattling the air, tanks booming. Alien armor sparked under the hail of gunfire, some falling, but others advancing with terrifying speed. Their weapons fired beams of burning energy that sliced through steel and concrete. Men screamed, vehicles exploded, the ground shook as the two forces clashed. Lena grabbed Cale's arm, dragging him behind a truck for cover. Her ears rang with the sounds of war. For the first time, Earth was standing up, fighting back, but the price was blood and fire. Cale coughed, his glowing blood staining the pavement. His eyes, dim but still burning, looked at her. "This is only the beginning," he said softly. "Your people are awakening now. They will suffer, but they will also rise. They must." Lena pressed her back against the truck, trembling as explosions lit up the night around her. She could see soldiers running, shouting orders, dragging their wounded away while others kept firing at the advancing aliens. Humanity was brave, but they were unprepared, fighting with weapons meant for earthly wars against something from the stars. Yet in their courage, Lena felt something shift inside her, a strange spark, a heat that spread through her veins. Her hands trembled, and for a moment, she swore she saw faint light flicker across her skin. She clenched her fists, shaking her head. "I can't do this," she whispered to herself. But deep down, she knew she had no choice. This was no longer just Cale's war. This was humanity's war now. The battlefield was chaos, smoke and fire swallowing the night, human soldiers shouting orders, alien warriors moving like shadows of death, weapons burning holes through tanks and trucks, but in the middle of it all Lena could only hear her own heartbeat pounding inside her ears as she dragged Cale further into the ruins of an overturned bus for cover. He was weak, his glowing blood still dripping, yet his eyes never stopped burning as they locked onto her. "You feel it, don't you?" he whispered, his voice cracked but steady. Lena shook her head, pressing her trembling hands against her stomach. "Feel what?" "Fear. Yes, I feel fear." But Cale shook his head, a faint smile ghosting his lips despite his pain. "Not fear. The blood. My blood inside you. It is changing you already." Lena wanted to deny it, but the truth was there. She had felt heat in her veins, flashes of strength when she should have collapsed. Even now as terror gripped her, she was not paralyzed like before. She could move, she could think, she could survive. "What is happening to me?" she asked, her voice shaking. Cale's eyes softened, his words carrying the weight of centuries. "The dragon blood is more than flesh. It is fire, it is memory, it is power born from stars themselves. Those who carry it become more than human, more than mortal. My enemies fear it because they cannot destroy it, only chase it. And now it lives in you. And in the child." Lena's throat tightened. She wanted to scream at him, to demand why he had cursed her with this burden, but the truth was, part of her was terrified of the answer. Outside, gunfire roared, human soldiers bravely fighting but slowly being pushed back. Lena peeked out and saw one soldier fall, another dragged screaming by an alien beast of steel. Something inside her flared at the sight, anger burning hot in her chest. She clenched her fists, and for a brief second, her skin glowed faintly, a thin line of fire tracing across her veins. She gasped and stumbled back against the bus wall. "What is happening to me?" she repeated, panic in her voice. Kale's expression grew serious. "The transformation has begun. Your body fights to contain the power of dragon blood. Many of my people were trained from birth to master it, but you are human, fragile. If you do not accept it, it will burn you alive." Lena shook her head, tears in her eyes. "I can't. I'm not strong enough." Kale leaned forward, grabbing her wrist with surprising force, his burning gaze locking onto hers. "You are stronger than you believe. The child within you ensures it. Already your blood is not just yours. It belongs to something greater. That is why the hunters call you the carrier. To them, you are a vessel to be destroyed. To me, you are salvation." Lena swallowed hard, her heart racing, but before she could answer a blast struck the bus, throwing them both to the ground. The soldiers were falling back, their lines breaking. Humanity's first true battle against the galaxy was being lost. The old man who had driven them there appeared suddenly, limping but alive, pulling Lena by the arm. "We have to move," he shouted. "They'll slaughter everyone here." Lena glanced at Kale, torn, but the Emperor stood slowly, his body shaking, his eyes still burning. "No. She must see. She must understand what it means." He lifted his hand weakly, fire sparking across his skin. With a roar that shook the ground, a wave of flame burst outward, slamming into the advancing aliens, scattering them back for a brief moment. The soldiers of Earth stared in shock, their weapons lowering as they saw the impossible. One man burning like a star, his power splitting the night. But as quickly as it came, the light faded, Kale collapsing again, his body too broken to sustain the fire. Lena caught him before he fell completely, her own arms steady though they should not have been. She looked at him, fear and anger twisting inside her. "If I don't learn to control this, if I fail, then what happens?" Kale's eyes met hers, the last strength in them unshakable. "Then your world dies. And with it, everything I fought to protect." The old man pulled at Lena's shoulder, shouting for her to move, but Lena couldn't look away from Kale. His words burned into her soul, louder than the chaos around them. She pressed her trembling hands against her stomach, the strange warmth inside her pulsing again, not fear, not weakness, but something else, power. She closed her eyes, and for the briefest moment, she felt it, like wings of fire unfolding behind her, like the roar of dragons in the dark. She gasped, opening her eyes again, but the vision faded, leaving her shaking. Kale nodded weakly, as if he had seen it too. "You see now. The blood does not lie. You are becoming more." Lena swallowed hard, looking at the battlefield, at the soldiers dying, at her world burning. She was still just a waitress, still just a girl who had once dreamed of escape. But now escape was impossible. Now she was the center of a war bigger than anything humanity had ever known. And deep inside her, the secrets of dragon blood waited to be awakened. The night burned with fire as Lena, Kale, and the old man moved through the ruins, guided by desperate soldiers trying to push civilians away from the battlefield. But Lena could feel it deep inside her bones that they were not safe anywhere. The hunters would never stop until they had what she carried. Kale leaned on her shoulder, his body weak but his eyes still glowing faintly, while the old man kept muttering curses under his breath, leading them toward an underground shelter where survivors were gathering. Inside the bunker the air was heavy, filled with frightened voices, children crying, men whispering prayers, and Lena felt the stares of strangers when Kale's faintly glowing blood dripped onto the floor. Some whispered that he was not human, some called him dangerous, and others looked at Lena with suspicion, wondering why she stayed so close to him. A soldier with sharp eyes approached her, his rifle hanging low but his voice firm. "Who is he?" the soldier demanded, pointing at Kale. "Is he one of them? Because if he is, he's a threat to all of us." Lena's chest tightened as she shook her head quickly. "He's not like them. He saved me. He's trying to help. The soldier's eyes narrowed, but before he could reply another man stepped forward from the crowd, a face Lena recognized with shock. It was Thomas, a regular customer from the diner, a man who always sat at the corner booth and asked for extra sugar in his coffee. His kind smile was still there, but something in his eyes was colder now. "Lena," he said gently, "listen to them. You don't know who this stranger really is. He's bleeding light, for God's sake. He could be the reason those monsters are here." Lena opened her mouth to protest, but Thomas stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "I want to help you. I've always looked out for you, haven't I? Trust me. Give him to the soldiers. Let them deal with him. You'll be safe then." His words hit her like ice. Safe. The word echoed in her head, tempting her. She wanted safety, she wanted her old life back, but when she looked at Cale, weak and broken yet still watching her with those burning eyes, she knew safety was an illusion. "No," she whispered. "I can't." Thomas's smile faltered, and for a moment his mask slipped, revealing something darker beneath. "You don't understand what you're carrying," he said, his tone sharp. "I do. They told me." Lena froze, her stomach twisting. "Who told you?" she whispered. Thomas's smile returned, but it was cold now, cruel. "The ones who came before you ran into this place. They spoke to me, offered me protection, promised me survival if I gave them what they wanted. You, Lena. You and whatever you're hiding." Lena's blood turned to ice. Betrayal sank into her chest like a knife. Thomas, the man she thought was harmless, had already chosen his side. Before she could react, soldiers loyal to him raised their weapons, surrounding her and Cale. "I'm sorry," Thomas said softly, though his eyes betrayed no regret. "But your world is ending, Lena. Better to stand with the stronger side." Lena's breath came fast, her mind spinning, but Cale's hand gripped hers tightly. His voice, though weak, cut through the fear. "Do not let them take you. Do not let them take the child." The soldiers stepped closer, their rifles gleaming in the dim light. The old man growled, ready to fight, but he was old, and they were many. Lena's heart pounded, her hand trembling as she pressed it against her stomach, and in that moment something deep inside her snapped. A heat unlike anything she had ever felt spread through her chest, her veins glowing faintly under her skin, her fear twisting into fury. "No," she said firmly, her voice echoing louder than she expected. The soldiers hesitated, startled by the glow spreading across her arms. Thomas's eyes widened as Lena stepped forward, her body trembling but alive with fire. "You think betraying your people will save you?" she hissed, her voice no longer weak. "You're wrong. They'll kill you too once they're finished." Thomas's smile faltered completely, his mask shattering into panic. He shouted for the soldiers to fire, but before they could pull the trigger, a pulse of energy burst from Lena's body, a wave of heat and light that knocked them backward, their weapons scattering across the floor. The bunker filled with gasps and screams as people scrambled away from her glowing figure. Lena staggered, shocked at what she had just done, her chest burning with power she did not understand. Cale's lips curved into the faintest smile, pride shining in his weak gaze. "The blood answers you," he whispered. "At last." Thomas stumbled back, fear twisting his face, but his eyes hardened again. "This isn't over," he spat. "They'll come for you. And when they do, I'll be the one to hand you over." Then he fled into the chaos, leaving the bunker through a side door. The soldiers he had brought with him lay groaning on the floor, too stunned to rise. Lena stood shaking, her body still glowing faintly, her hands trembling as the fire inside her began to calm. Everyone in the shelter stared at her with fear and awe, whispers spreading quickly. She wasn't human anymore, she was something else. Lena looked around, her chest heavy, her heart torn between guilt and fury. She had been betrayed by someone she thought was harmless, someone she once served coffee to with a smile. The betrayal cut deeper than the fire in her veins. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty now. Cale was right. The hunters would never stop. Her own people might even turn against her. And the only way forward was to embrace what she was becoming, no matter the cost. Lena wiped the counter of the small diner for the third time that night. The place smelled of old coffee, fried eggs, and tired travelers. It was a quiet town, the kind where nothing ever changed. She wore her faded uniform, her hair tied back, her smile polite but empty. Customers came and went, never noticing the waitress who served them. But Lena noticed everything. She watched the clock tick slowly, listened to the hum of the fridge, and wondered if her life would ever mean something more. She had big dreams once, but dreams had a way of shrinking when bills piled up and nobody cared about your voice. Tonight felt like any other night, until the door opened. A tall man stepped inside. His presence filled the small diner like a storm rolling into a silent valley. He was not like the usual truck drivers or tired families who came in. His coat was long, dark, torn at the edges, as if he had walked through fire and shadow. His eyes were the strangest part, sharp, burning, almost glowing under the dim lights. Lena's hand froze on the counter. Something about him was wrong, or maybe too right. He sat at the far booth, alone, and when Lena brought him a menu, he didn't look at it. Instead, he looked at her, as if studying every line of her face. She felt as if he could see into her soul. "Coffee," he said in a low, commanding voice. Lena nodded quickly, trying to hide her unease. She poured the coffee, but her hands trembled. When she returned, she placed the cup down and tried to smile, but the man leaned closer. "They will come," he whispered. "They will come for me. And for you." Lena blinked. For a moment she thought she had misheard him. "Excuse me?" she asked. But he only stared into the steaming coffee as if it held the answers of the universe. She stepped back, unsettled. He looked like he hadn't eaten in days, but he didn't touch the food when she offered. He only drank the coffee, his gaze shifting now and then to the windows, as if expecting someone. The diner had only 2 other customers, old men playing cards, too busy to notice. Outside, the street was quiet, but Lena felt something heavy in the air. Hours passed. The strange man remained. Near midnight, he finally stood. As he walked past her, he stopped close, so close she could feel the heat from his body. His voice dropped even lower. "Do not fear the fire in the sky. Fear what follows." And with that, he left the diner. Lena stood frozen, her heart pounding. What kind of nonsense was that? She shook her head, trying to laugh it off, but deep down, fear crawled through her chest. She locked up the diner an hour later, the streets empty and cold. The night was too quiet, unnaturally still. As she walked home, she kept thinking of his words. Fire in the sky. Fear what follows. At her small apartment, she tried to sleep, but dreams pulled her into strange visions. She saw stars burning, dragons of light fighting in the dark, and her own face reflected in a mirror of fire. She woke with sweat on her skin and a tightness in her chest. The next evening, she returned to work. The diner buzzed with life, truckers laughing, music from the jukebox playing softly. She almost convinced herself she had imagined everything. But then, just after 9, the ground trembled. Glasses rattled on the shelves. People looked around, confused. A rumble filled the air like thunder rolling across the earth. Lena ran to the window. She gasped. In the sky above the town, fire streaked downward, tearing through the night. It was not lightning. It was not a storm. It was something else. Flaming trails burned across the horizon, like falling stars but larger, closer, terrifying. The customers rushed outside, pointing, shouting. Lena's heart hammered in her chest. Fire in the sky. His words returned, echoing in her ears. Fear what follows. Suddenly, she saw movement at the edge of the street. The stranger was back. He stood in the shadows, his coat whipping in the wind. But this time, he was not calm. Blood stained his side, and his eyes burned brighter than before. He looked at her directly, across the street, as if the world had shrunk to only the 2 of them. and then he collapsed. Lena's breath caught. She looked around. No one else noticed him. Everyone was too busy watching the fire raining from the sky. Without thinking, she ran. She pushed through the crowd, crossed the street, and knelt beside him. His blood was dark, not like any blood she had ever seen. It shimmered faintly, glowing against his coat. He grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. "You must run," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "But it is already inside you." Lena's mind spun. What was inside her? Who was he? The fire in the sky grew brighter, louder. Explosions shook the air, and distant screams echoed through the night. The ground shook again, harder this time. Buildings trembled, car alarms blared, and people screamed in panic. Lena looked up. Massive shapes descended from the sky, ships, not stars, ships made of steel and flame. The stranger's grip tightened. "They are here," he rasped, his glowing eyes fixed on hers. "And they will not stop until they have what you carry." Lena froze, confusion and terror colliding inside her. What she carried? She was just a waitress. She had nothing. But before she could ask, another explosion ripped through the night. Fire lit the horizon. Shadows of alien machines crawled across the ground. And in that moment, Lena understood. Her ordinary life was gone. Forever. The world outside the bunker was fire and thunder, the earth trembling as alien ships spread across the skies like vultures over a dying body, and inside Lena stood at the center of fearful eyes, her skin still faintly glowing from the burst of power she had unleashed, whispers running through the survivors who no longer knew whether to see her as a savior or a curse, while Cale leaned against the wall, his body frail but his gaze sharp with pride and sorrow. The soldiers who had once pointed their guns at him now looked at her with hesitation, some lowering their weapons, others gripping them tighter as if unsure whether she was human at all, and the old man who had saved them before finally spoke, his voice rough but steady. "Enough staring. Look outside, your people are dying while you argue, and if she has power then let her use it, because right now we need every damn chance we can get." His words cut through the tension, but before Lena could answer, the sound of metal tearing filled the air, the bunker walls shaking as an explosion tore through the entrance, flames and smoke spilling in, alien soldiers storming inside like shadows with glowing eyes, their weapons humming with deadly light. Panic erupted instantly, civilians screaming, soldiers opening fire, bullets rattling the bunker with deafening noise, but the aliens advanced without fear, their armor sparking as they cut down men with burning beams of energy. Lena's body shook with terror, yet something deep inside her refused to let her collapse, the fire in her blood rising again, pulsing like a heartbeat that wasn't her own, and when one alien soldier charged toward her, its weapon raised to strike, she lifted her hand instinctively, a blast of light erupting from her palm, throwing the creature across the room and smashing it into the wall. The bunker froze for a heartbeat, all eyes turning toward her, and Lena herself gasped in shock at what she had done, her body trembling but alive with fire. Cale's voice carried across the chaos, weak but commanding. "Do not fight it, Lena, become it." More aliens surged forward, and the human soldiers began fighting alongside her, covering her from both sides as if sensing she was the only chance they had. Lena pushed forward, every step heavy with fear but every movement answered by the strange power inside her, her veins glowing brighter, her hands burning with heat that did not scorch her skin but obeyed her will, flames leaping outward to strike at armored enemies. The old man fought near her, his shotgun roaring, while the soldiers rallied around her presence, their shouts echoing with renewed courage as if her fire gave them strength. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity did not just run, they pushed back. Yet the enemy was relentless, wave after wave pouring into the bunker, and Lena's body ached with every blast she released, her breath sharp, her legs trembling, but she refused to stop, each strike fueled not by training or knowledge but by desperation and the thought of the child within her, the heir that even Cale's enemies feared. One alien broke through the line, towering and armored in crimson unlike the others, its blade of light burning as it charged directly at her. Lena froze, her body screaming with exhaustion, but before it could strike, Cale stepped forward, his body barely able to stand but his hand raised high, flames erupting from his fingers to block the blow. The clash shook the ground, fire against light, and Cale roared with the last strength in his body. "You will not touch her!" The alien staggered back, its armor cracked, but Kale fell to his knees, his strength drained completely. Lena screamed his name, the fire inside her flaring wildly, and with a cry that shook the walls she released everything inside her in a single wave, a storm of fire and light bursting outward, incinerating the aliens in a blinding explosion that left nothing but ash and silence. The bunker fell quiet except for the sobs and gasps of survivors, smoke rising from the charred remains of their enemies, and Lena collapsed to her knees, her chest heaving, her body trembling with exhaustion and fear. She looked at her hands, still faintly glowing, and felt the weight of what she had done, the weight of power that was no longer hidden but undeniable. The soldiers stared at her in awe, their faces lit not with fear now but with something else, hope. One of them finally spoke, his voice low but steady, "Maybe we can win." The words spread like fire, men and women lifting their heads, eyes shining with new courage. Humanity had seen their first victory, small and costly, but it was a battle won, and it had been won because of her. Lena turned to Kale, who lay weak on the floor, his eyes half closed but a faint smile on his lips. "You see now," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "The blood, it does not lie. You are its flame." Tears filled Lena's eyes as she held his hand, her heart torn between fear of what she was becoming and the realization that she was no longer just a waitress, no longer just human. She was the spark of something greater, and now all of humanity looked to her as the fire that might keep them alive in the darkness of war. The bunker smelled of smoke and blood, the cries of the wounded echoing through the concrete walls as soldiers patched up their comrades. Children clung to their mothers, and everyone looked at Lena not with the doubt of before but with something heavier, something close to worship, as if she were no longer one of them but something above them, and Lena felt the weight of those eyes pressed down on her chest, heavier than any wound. Because she was not a hero, she was just a girl who once carried trays of coffee and dreamed of a better life. Yet now she was carrying the fire of a dead empire, and the child of a man who was not even human. Kale lay weak on a cot, his body drained, his skin pale except for the faint glow still running through his veins, and when Lena sat beside him he turned his head slowly, his burning eyes still alive with unshakable strength. "They saw you," he whispered, his voice rough but calm. "They saw the flame rise. It cannot be hidden anymore. The galaxy will know, and they will fear, but they will also come in greater numbers." Lena shivered, pressing her hands together tightly. "I don't want to be this," she admitted, her voice breaking. "I didn't ask for it, Kale. I don't even understand it." Kale reached weakly for her hand, his grip trembling but his words steady. "The fire chooses no one. It flows where it must, and now it flows through you. You can fight it, deny it, but it will only burn you. Or you can rise with it, become more, and lead not just your child but your people into survival." Lena's heart twisted, the thought of leading anyone filling her with fear, but outside the bunker walls the sound of distant engines echoed, alien ships moving across the skies like dark gods, and she knew Kale was right. They would not stop, they would keep coming until there was nothing left. Later, the old man sat with her near the flickering light of a lantern, cleaning his shotgun with steady hands. "Girl," he said without looking at her, "you don't have the luxury of being afraid anymore. I've seen men break when the world leaned on them, and I've seen others rise when they never thought they could. I think you're the rising kind, whether you like it or not." His words stayed with her long into the night as she tried to rest, but sleep would not come, and instead she found herself staring at her hands, the faint glow under her skin pulsing like a second heartbeat. The next day, scouts returned with grim news. The aliens were regrouping, their main forces moving toward the city, and humanity's defenses were crumbling faster than anyone wanted to admit. Soldiers gathered, leaders argued, but all eyes kept drifting back to her, waiting for her to speak, waiting for her to act. Finally Lena stood, her voice shaking but loud enough to carry. "We can't just keep hiding. We have to fight, and we have to fight together." Murmurs spread, some fearful, others hopeful, and she raised her glowing hand for them to see. "I don't know how to lead. I don't know how to fight like a soldier. But I know this, they're afraid of me, of what I carry. That means we have something they can't control. If you fight with me, if you stand with me, then maybe we can turn this war." Silence filled the bunker until one soldier banged his fist against the wall and shouted, "With her!" Others followed, voices rising, courage sparking, and for the first time since the sky fell, humanity did not look broken but alive with fire. Lena felt the heat inside her answering their cries, not crushing her but lifting her. That night, as they prepared to move, Kale pulled her close, his voice faint but fierce. "You have done what I could not. You have given your people hope. That is the first flame. Guard it, for it will grow into fire that can burn empires." Lena nodded, tears stinging her eyes, and as dawn broke over the ruined city she stepped into the open with soldiers at her side, human weapons pointed skyward, her own hands burning faintly with dragon blood fire. For the first time, she did not feel only like a waitress or a frightened girl. She felt like the spark of something larger, something unstoppable, and as the alien ships descended again, Lena whispered to herself, "Let them come. This time, we fight." The morning sky was filled with smoke and fire, alien ships hanging like black daggers over the ruined city, their engines howling as they released smaller crafts that streaked toward the ground, and humanity's soldiers, tired but determined, braced themselves for another battle, their eyes fixed on Lena who stood at the front with her hands glowing faintly, her hair whipping in the wind, her heart pounding with fear and strength she did not fully understand. Kale watched from behind, his body still weak, but his gaze steady and burning as if he could already see what was coming, and the old man kept his shotgun close, muttering under his breath about devils in the sky. As the first wave of aliens landed, armored soldiers with weapons of light marched forward, their movements precise and merciless, and Lena felt the fire inside her rise, hotter and stronger than before, her blood racing as if something deep inside her wanted out. She raised her hand, fire bursting to life, and the soldiers around her roared as they charged into battle, bullets rattling, grenades exploding, but the aliens struck back with beams of searing light, cutting through walls and tearing men apart. Lena fought with all she had, throwing flames that incinerated enemies, shielding soldiers with walls of fire, her body moving faster and stronger with each heartbeat, yet as the fight raged on she felt something else stirring inside her, not just her own strength but something larger, something alive within her womb, the child of Kale, the heir of dragon blood. Her stomach burned with heat, not painful but powerful, and suddenly her flames grew brighter, hotter, expanding far beyond what she thought possible. Soldiers and aliens alike paused for a moment, stunned as Lena's body shone like a beacon, her flames rising skyward in a great pillar of light that split the dark clouds. Kale's eyes widened, his breath catching. "It has begun," he whispered. The old man shielded his eyes, staring in awe. "God help us, the child is already fighting." Lena staggered, gasping, clutching her stomach, but she did not fall. Instead the flames obeyed her without command, sweeping across the battlefield, driving back alien soldiers who shrieked as their armor melted, their weapons turned to ash. For the first time, the humans saw the aliens retreating, truly retreating, their perfect lines breaking as they fled from her light. Hope surged in the hearts of the soldiers, their shouts echoing louder, their courage stronger than ever. Yet Lena herself trembled, fear rising in her chest. She could feel the child inside her not just growing but awakening, its heartbeat pulsing with fire, its presence merging with hers. It was as if the unborn heir was lending her strength, channeling power through her veins, guiding her flames with precision she had never known. But with the power came a voice, faint yet clear in her mind, not her own, not Kale's, but something new, ancient and strong. "Protect them," the voice whispered, soft as wind yet heavy as thunder. "They are ours." Lena gasped, her knees buckling, yet the fire did not fade, it only grew more focused, striking at enemies with perfect accuracy. Kale's body shook as he watched, tears forming in his burning eyes. "Our child, it is already bound to her, bound to the flame." The battle raged on, but the tide was shifting, humanity's soldiers pushing forward with renewed courage, their eyes wide as they fought beside a woman who burned like a living sun. Yet even as they gained ground, Lena felt the strain, her body crying out for rest, her vision blurring, and she knew this power was not endless. The child's awakening was dangerous, uncontrolled, and if she lost herself in it, the fire could consume not only their enemies but everything around her. She screamed, forcing herself to control the flood of power, her body shaking violently, sweat and tears mixing on her face. Kale pushed forward, dragging his broken body across the battlefield to reach her, shouting above the chaos. "Lena, listen to me. Do not let it burn unchecked. You must guide it, you must become its voice." Lena's vision swam, the flames roaring too loud, the child's heartbeat thundering in her veins, but she clung to Kale's words, focusing on his voice, his eyes, the man who had brought this fire into her world. She steadied her breathing, whispering to the voice inside, "I hear you. I will protect them. But you must trust me." The heat inside her steadied, the flames drawing closer, wrapping around her like wings of light, no longer wild but sharp and strong. She lifted her arms, and with a roar she sent the fire crashing into the largest alien ship hovering low above the city, its metal hull glowing red before it exploded in a brilliant storm, the sky shattering with fire. The battlefield fell silent for a heartbeat as both humans and aliens stared at the burning wreckage falling from the sky, disbelief etched across every face. Humanity had destroyed their first warship, not with missiles or tanks but with the fire of a girl who was once just a waitress. Soldiers raised their rifles high, screaming victory, their cries echoing across the ruins, but Lena fell to her knees, exhausted, her body trembling, her vision darkening. Kale caught her before she hit the ground, holding her tightly, his voice trembling with both pride and fear. "You did it, Lena. You and the air. You have awakened the flame of empires." She pressed her face against his chest, sobbing with exhaustion, whispering, "I don't know if I can keep this up. It's too much, Kale. I'm afraid." He stroked her hair weakly, his voice steady despite his own pain. "Courage is not the absence of fear. It is standing even when fear consumes you. You are the rising flame, Lena, and they will fear you until the stars themselves burn out." Around them, soldiers celebrated, aliens fled, but Lena knew this was only the beginning. The child inside her had awakened, its power already shaping the war, and the galaxy would not stop until it was theirs or destroyed. As she looked at the burning sky, she felt both hope and dread. The air was humanity's greatest chance, but also its greatest danger, and she was the only one standing between the two. The sky was no longer just fire but war itself, alien ships blotting out the sun as their fleets descended in numbers greater than anything humanity had ever seen, their thunder shaking the earth as if the world itself was breaking, and on the ground the ruins of the city burned while soldiers prepared for what they all knew might be their last stand, their weapons ready, their eyes locked on Lena who stood at the center, her body faintly glowing with the fire that had already turned the tide once but had also nearly consumed her, and inside her womb the air pulsed with power, its heartbeat thundering through her veins, reminding her with every breath that she was no longer just a woman but the vessel of something greater. Kale stood beside her though he could barely walk, his strength nearly gone but his will unbroken, his burning eyes fixed on the horizon where the enemy gathered like a storm, and the old man checked his shotgun one last time, muttering curses under his breath but refusing to leave. "This is it," Kale said softly, his voice steady though his body shook. "The War of Flames. The moment where the galaxy learns that humanity will not kneel, not while the air of the dragon blood rises." Lena swallowed hard, fear and strength battling inside her as she looked at the faces of the soldiers around her, men and women who had lost everything yet still stood, waiting for her to lead. She raised her hands, fire flickering to life, and spoke loudly, her voice carrying across the ruins. "We fight not for victory alone but for survival, for the children who still hide in the dark, for the world that still breathes beneath this ash. They think we are weak. They think we are broken. But we are still here, and today we show them that humanity burns brighter than their shadows." A roar rose from the soldiers, their courage ignited by her words, and as the alien armies advanced in waves of steel and light the battle began, explosions tearing through the ground, beams of energy cutting the air, bullets screaming as humans threw everything they had at the invaders. Lena moved like fire itself, her body glowing brighter with every strike, flames erupting from her hands to shield soldiers, to burn enemy ranks, to destroy machines that towered over the battlefield. The air inside her lent strength she could not have imagined, guiding her flames with precision, shaping them into spears of light that pierced alien war machines, into walls of fire that turned back charging troops. For the first time, humanity fought as one, not scattered survivors but an army with a living flame at its heart. Yet the enemy was vast, their ships blotting out the horizon, their weapons cutting down men and women without mercy, and for every alien that fell, more came, endless, relentless. Lena's body screamed with exhaustion, every muscle burning, her veins on fire, but she did not stop, she could not stop, because behind her were children, the last hope of her people, and within her was the heir that the galaxy already feared. The enemy brought forth their champions, towering warriors clad in black armor, their weapons blazing with energy that cracked the earth, and they advanced straight for Lena, their eyes burning with the knowledge that she was the key. She stood her ground, fear clawing at her chest, but fire answering in her veins, and when they struck she met them head-on, flames roaring higher than she had ever unleashed, the ground shaking as her fire clashed with their blades of light. The battlefield froze as human and alien alike watched a single woman hold back giants, her body glowing like a living star, her cries echoing like thunder. One by one the champions fell, consumed by her flames, their armor melting, their bodies turning to ash, but each victory tore at her strength, each strike dragging her closer to collapse. Kale shouted her name, his voice filled with fear, but Lena pressed on, blood dripping from her lips, her vision blurring, until finally the last champion fell and silence spread across the battlefield. The alien armies wavered, their perfect lines broken, their confidence shaken, and in that moment Lena raised her burning hands high, her voice breaking yet strong. Go back to your masters. Tell them humanity will not fall. Tell them the fire lives, and it will burn until your empires are ash. The words carried like fire itself, and the aliens faltered, their fleets pulling back, their armies retreating, not defeated but shaken for the first time. Humanity roared in victory, soldiers falling to their knees in tears, embracing one another, shouting her name, Lena! Lena! Yet she herself collapsed, her body unable to hold any more, and Kale rushed forward, catching her before she hit the ground, his own tears burning his cheeks. You did it, he whispered, holding her tightly. You gave them hope. You lit the fire. Lena's voice was faint, barely audible. It's not over, they'll come back, stronger. Kale kissed her forehead gently, his voice steady despite the pain. Then we'll be ready. Because now they know humanity does not kneel, and with the air inside you, the flame will only grow. The old man stood over them, his shotgun still smoking, his face lined with exhaustion but his eyes filled with awe. Damn girl, he muttered softly, you just turned the tide of the galaxy. Around them the battlefield smoldered, alien wreckage burning, human soldiers gathering the wounded, and though the war was far from over, a spark had been lit that could not be extinguished. Humanity had risen from the ashes, carried by a waitress who became a warrior, by the fire of an unborn heir who had already shaken the stars. As Lena closed her eyes, drifting into exhausted sleep in Kale's arms, one truth burned brighter than all the rest. The War of Flames had only just begun, but the galaxy would never forget the day a human woman carried the Dragon Emperor's child and lit the fire that could consume empires.